Okay, this is the Unit 3 Quiz 2 review. All right, so I will say before we get started, I might jump around a little bit. I'm going to do all the word problems first, and then I'm going to go back and do the graphing questions second. So just kind of keep that in mind. Because the way that the worksheet has been printed, I kind of had to get creative with my spacing, so things got put kind of out of order. So here we go. Question number one: Hodges Feed and Seed offers a reduced bag of for bulk purchases. All right, so here we go. If 40 bags, all right, so a, let's see, okay. A of 40, if that equals 1,412, and then A of 100 equals 3,512. All right, we've done this several times. First thing we got to do is our common difference. Remember, finding the common differences, I'm going to take the later term minus the earlier term. I'm going to get a number, and then in this case, I'm going to divide by 60. And the reason why I'm dividing by 60 is because that's the 40th term and that's the 100th term. So here we go, 3512 minus 1412. Divide that by 60, and my common difference is 35. So my common difference D is 35. Okay. Now the next thing is I got to find the first term. So this is an arithmetic sequence. All right. So that means I have to use the A of n is equal to something plus something n minus 1. I already know that this is 35. I just found it. That's my common difference. But I don't know what that is. So I have to decide, do I want to deal with 1,412 or 3,512? Well, I always like using smaller numbers. Small numbers is always better, in my opinion. So 1412 is equal to x plus 35, parenthesis, 40 minus 1. So 14, I don't like the way I wrote that. Let's see. So 1412 is equal to x plus 35 times 40 minus 1, which 35 times 39, basically. And that is 1365. All right, subtract 1365 from both sides. So 1412 minus 1365, and I get my first term, x is being 47. Okay, 47. Now, when it says what is the explicit formula, guys, I cannot tell you how many people do this. They take these two numbers and they go, oh, 35n plus 47. That is so wrong, it's almost right again. All right, that's how wrong it is. All right, so once you have your first term, once you have your common difference, you have to go back to the default formula again. A of n is equal to something plus something n minus 1. We already found our common difference, which is 35. We already have our first term. Distribute, distribute. So now we're at 47 plus 35 n minus 35. Combine the first, combine the last. My final answer is 35 n plus, sorry, I'll put minus. So 35 n plus 12. Now, guys, check your work. Check your work. Don't just plug an answer in and just run away from it, all right? So if you want to check your work, here we go. We used we used this in our problem, so let's just go ahead and use this. If I take 100, if I plug it in there, would I get 3510, 3512? Let's see, 35 times 100 plus 12. Do the math. Hey, look at that. I got 3512. That means I am correct. All right. That means that this answer is correct. All right. How much would 200 bags cost? Well, that's easy. Just take 200, plug it in for n. So 35 times 200 plus 12. I think it's going to be like 712. Oh, my bad. 7,000. That's right. Sorry, 7,000. So 7,012. There we go. There's my answer. All right. I forgot to space this out a little bit, so a lot of the stuff that I'm writing down, I'm going to quickly erase just because of the fact that I don't have any room to write. But it's a video, so you can always go back and look at it. All right, so a scientist trying to discover the cure for the common cold. He accidentally put some of the paperwork in the trash, but some reports show that the seventh hour there were that. All right, so A of 7 is equal to 3,645, and then it says A of 12 is equal to 8,085, 885, 735. All right, now guys, just read. Oh, it's ratio, so that means it's geometric. All right, so sometimes it may not necessarily say geometric, but you got to look at all the words. So ratio. So remember, to find the ratio, you're going to take my later term, and you're going to now divide it by my earlier term. And what you're going to get, you're going to root by the jumps. Now, most of you at this point in time in the semester have gotten this pretty easily. So, so hopefully me kind of going pretty fast on this is not going to be a problem. 3645. And whatever answer I get, I'm going to take the fifth root from it, because again, that's 7, that's 12, difference of 5. So 885, 735 divided by 3645. I bet you it's probably going to be 3. And it is. So my ratio ended up being 3. All right, so my R, I'm just going to write R is equal to 3. Now, at this point in time, finding our first term is very similar to like what we just did with question number 1, except it's geometric. So geometric is A of n is equal to something, parentheses something, n minus 1. Now, remember, your R goes here, okay? We got to find our first term. Do I want to work with 3,000 or I want to work with 885,000? Well, obviously 3,000. I want to work with that smaller number. There you go. N goes there. Okay. All right. 3645 equals x parenthesis 3 to the 7 minus 1 power. All right. So that's 3 to the 6 power. So 3645 is equal to 729x. When I divide 3645 divided by 729, I get x is equal to 5. So my first term is 5. Now, what's the explicit formula? Now, what's nice about the geometric sequence is that you can actually plug your ratio in first term and not have to simplify because you don't have to. So, very simply, A of n is equal to something, parentheses something, n minus 1. My first term is now 5. My ratio is 3. So 5, parentheses 3 to the n minus 1 power. How many cells are present as of hour 15? Just very simple. Take 15, plug it in there. So you're going to get a pretty big number here. So 5 times 3 to the 15 minus 1 power, which is the 14th power. And we get, yep, pretty large number here. It ends up being 2, 3, 9, 1, 4, 8, 4, 5. I'll put some commas in here. So 23,914,845. All right. Okay. Question number 3. All right. So find the first 5 terms. All right. So again, we've done this several times. You want to find the first term, just take 1, plug it in there, and you'll get your answer. And then you take 2, plug it in there, get your answer. So my first one's going to be 1, 4, 16, 64, and 64 times 4 is 256. There you go. The logging company offers a special discount. Okay. Now, this is something that for question number 4, a lot of y'all messed up on the quiz from last week, so that's why I put it in there. All right, so let me kind of clean this up so it doesn't look like a jumbled mess. All right, it says the logging company. All right, here we go. It says the customer has 3 trees for this. So A of 3 is equal to $801.90. And then 10 is this. So A of 10 is equal to 383.55. Okay? Now, where a lot of y'all are screwing up, because whenever you're trying to find the ratio, remember, is always the later term divided by the earlier term, okay? A lot of y'all you just look at your numbers and you're like, oh, 800 is the larger, which means it's got to be the later term. Guys, pay attention. That's the third term. That's the 10th term, all right? So that means in this scenario, the later term is actually the smaller number. So that's the later term, that's the earlier term, all right? So we're going to do 383.55. We're going to divide that by 801.90. I'm going to get a number, and then I'm going to take the 7th root, because that's the 3rd, that's the 10th. This question is just like question number 2. So, and if you notice how I wrote the answer, or if you notice, like, what is the ratio, I said you're going to get a decimal, so be prepared. So the 7th term, the 7th root of that, because I got a pretty nasty number. I'm just going to plug it into the problem here. And my answer, so R ends up being 0.90. So that's what my R is. My R is 0.90. So now at this point in time, everything now changes back to like question number 2. Now I got to find my first term. So A of n is equal to something, parentheses something, n minus 1. I already know that this is 0.9. I need to find my first term. I'm just going to take 800 there and take 3, plug it there. So 801.9 is equal to x 0.9 to the 3 minus 1 power. So 819. And I'm trying to, when I do these problems, I'm trying to make it to where you guys are going to just pretty much get whole numbers. So 801.9 divided by 0.81, and it ends up being my first term is 990. So if my first term is 990, I'm just going to speed up a little bit. My formula is going to be that right there. All right, and then let me clean this up a little so it doesn't all run in together. What would the formula be for this situation? I already found that one. And then that must have been a copy paste job. All right, mistake. And the 20th term. All right, there we go. I'm just going to play 20 into that. So 990 times 0.9 raised to the power of 19, because technically it's 100 is 20 minus 1. So $121, and we'll just say 70 or 58 cents. There we go. All right. Pretty simple. All right, moving on. All right. South High School just opened up with 1,200 students. A lot of y'all have done this pretty easily. So what is the ratio? Now we are in, so 9%, and we are increasing, so that means it's going to be 1.09 for my ratio. My first term is what it started with, 1,200. What is the formula? So the formula would be 1,200, because it's geometric, 1.09 to the n minus 1 power. All right. Now, this is where a lot of you guys are kind of screwing up, and that is, how many years would it take for the school to reach 4,000? This is a guess and check situation. So you're going to have to figure out how many years, all right? So you got to figure out how many years, and I honestly have no idea. So I'm literally just going to guess and check. So typically what students like to do is they just like to, guess some years. So what is the population after 10 years? So after 10 years, A of 10, of course, I'm going to do 1,200 times 1.09 to the 10 minus 1 power. And when I do that, after 10 years, it's 2,606 students. Obviously, enough time has not gone by, all right? So next, students like to go, oh, okay, typically I'm using the most friendly numbers. Students tend to like to go by 5. Hey, look at that. On the 15th term, it's 4,010. So I'm a little too high because I want my answer to be in this setup right here. I want my answer to be in this setup. So I know that 5 is a little on the high side. Well, of course, at this point, you're like, well, it's got to be A of 14 because I'm so close. And on the 14th year, I'm at 3,679. So this is my low end. This is my high end. So my answer is going to be 14 to 15 years. That's it. Pretty simple. All right. So let me, I need my little block here so I can write on it. Okay. All right. So John invests 30,000 in an account that pays. Here we go. Compounded monthly. That's really the key term. Since it's compounded monthly, I know it's going to be the big formula. So P parenthesis 1 plus R over N close parenthesis times the N to the T power, or raised to the N to the T power. So what I'm starting with is my principal. I can go ahead and answer this question right now. All right. My R is going to be the percentage as a decimal. So my R is going to be 0.0156 my monthly N will equal to 12, and so I'm sorry, my N is 12. I had to pause the videos. Sorry, guys. And then my time is 20 years. So very simply, in the calculator, I'm just going to go B is equal. Well, of course, you won't put B is equal to, but 30,001 plus R, which is 0.0156. Divide that by 12 because that's monthly raised to the, actually, let me write it the exact same way I put in my calculator. So you go caret parenthesis 12 times 20. There we go. So now remember, as you are working this problem, remember that the formula actually starts with a B, and B stands for balance. So when we get our final answer, which is our calculator says, hey, it's 40,976 rounded. Where does that go? Well, because of the fact that the formula starts with a B, I know that this is the balance. So the balance is 40,976. So how much money was made? Well, if I started with 3,000, I now have 40,000, a simple subtraction problem. So 40,976 minus 30,000 gives me 10,976. There we go. So I made $10,000. Now, here's the thing, guys. As you're working this formula, please remember to use your percentages correctly, because what's going to happen is some of you are not going to convert percentages, and you're going to get something in like the billions. If you're getting something in the billions, you messed up. I'll be honest with you. You're going to mess up. When Pete was 18 years old, he invested $10,000 in a simple, there we go, word association, simple. Because of the fact that it's simple, I know it's I is equal to PRT. So P, again, is what we're starting with, which is 10,000. So I already know the answer to this first question. All right. The R is going to be 0.0289. Some of you guys were asking me yesterday or at the quiz, do I always move the decimal? The answer is yes. Now, our T, if you notice, the problem started when he was 18 years old, and it's going to end when he's 50 years old. So a simple subtraction problem, that's 32 years. So I is equal to 10,000 times R, which is 0.0289, times T, which is 32. Now remember, your calculator is going to give you an answer, but you got to know what that answer means. All right, so my calculator said 92.48. What the heck is that? Well, if I look, my problem or my formula started with an I, which means that's how much money I made, which was my interest, 92.48. So think about it, guys. If you started with 10,000 and if you made 9,000, how much money do you have now? Well, I'm just going to add the two, which gives me $19,248. There we go. All right, question number 8. When Sam was 20 years old, he invested 20,000 in an account with an interest rate of this. Okay, compounded. Here's my buzzword: continuously, because I know it's continuously. B is PERT. That's the E formula. All right. So again, he started with 20,000. So that's my principal. My R is going to be 0.0189. And the problem started when he was 20 years old, and now it ends at when he's 50 years old. So T is going to be 30. So in my formula, or in my calculator, I'm going to go 20,000 E caret 0.0189 times 30. So that's how exactly I'm going to type it into my calculator. I need to know where my E function is. 0.0189 times 30. And my calculator is going to give me 35,259. What is that? Well, again, I'm looking. Hey, look at that. My formula started with the B, so that means it's the balance. So 35 to 59. So that's how much money I have. All right. Now, again, think about it. I started with 20,000. I now have 35,000. How much money did I make? Well, a simple subtraction problem will give me the answer. So make sure you guys read carefully and get the correct answer. And you're subtracting correctly and not adding or anything. All right. So that's all the word problems. Let's go ahead and go to the slope. All right. So these questions here are going to kind of be all over the worksheet just because I needed space to write it. Find the slope of the line. So slope of the line, we did this week. First thing I need to do is find 2 points. There's a point and there's a point. Remember, slope is rise over run. All right. Rise means what are you going up? What are you going down? Run means are you going to the left, to the right? I always like to, I mean, really, it doesn't matter which point you start with as long as you go up or down. So I'm going to start with this point right here. See, actually, I won't make this. This point right here, I just put it in blue here. All right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I went up 7, so that's positive 7. I went to the left once, so that's negative 1. So negative 7 over negative 1, my slope is negative 7. All right. For this one here, I'm going to use this point, and I'm going to use this point. All right, so I always like to count up first. So 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, so I went up 4 over 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I went. So remember, whenever you go up, that's positive. Whenever you go to the right, that's positive. So my slope is 4 out of 5. All right, sketch the graph. All right, first off, this second number here is where I'm starting on the y-axis. So boom, right there. Now remember, your slope is what you're doing. Remember it's rise over run. So my slope is 1 over 2, so that means I'm going up 1, I'm going to the right 2. So up 1, to the right 2. Oh, there's my first point. Over 1, right 2. There's my next one. You get the idea. All right, so my slope is going to, or my line's going to look something like that. Pretty easy. All right, let's try question number 4. Oh, we got some negatives in there. All right, negative 3. I'm going to start there. So let me pull this slope out. So if you notice, I have a negative sign right in the middle. You decide if you want to make the negative sign to the top or the bottom. Typically, it's most understood that the negative is going to be attached to the top. So that means I'm going to go down 1 and to the right 5. So down 1 and to the right 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right. Now you could also, if you wanted to, and I mean, if you wanted to do this, you could say positive 1 over negative 5. So that means you're going up 1 and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There you go. So there's my points here. Let's see if I can just freehand it here, something like that. There you go. All right, right slope intercept form. Okay, so again, I know my answer is going to look something like y is equal to 1 over 2x plus 3. That's what so I need to find my slope. I need to find my y-intercept. So finding my y-intercept is super easy, literally. It's this right here. So that's negative 1. So I know it's y is equal to something x something, and that second something was minus 1. So now I just need to find my slope. So I need to find 2 more points that, well, I'm just going to use this as point 1, and it actually works right here, point 2. So I'm just going to count. So I'm going to count down 1, 2, 3. All right, so I subtract a 3. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, plus 5. So my slope is going to be negative 3 over 5. There you go. All right, question number 6. There we go. It's at negative 5. So it's going to be y is equal to something x, or in this case, minus 5. Where's another spot? I think it's right there. That's the 2 spots that it goes through. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I went plus 6 up, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 plus 6 over. So it's going to be 6 over 5. Pretty easy. All right, so for these questions here, I think these might actually be on the front of the review. Remember, your job here is to rewrite everything where it's y is equal to, and again, I'm just making this up, 2x plus 4, something like that, okay? So notice that the y is on the left-hand side and everything else is on the right. So when you're looking at question number 7, the y is already where it's supposed to be, but the x needs to be moved over. So that we're going to subtract 2x for both sides. Negative 7y is equal to negative 2x plus 14. And then I'm going to divide by -7, divide by -7, divide by -7, because I need to get that y all by itself. So 2 divided by 7, that's going to be a decimal, so we're just going to leave it as a fraction. That's positive 2 over 7x. Positive 14 divided by -7 is -2. There's my answer. So here in this one, the y is where it's supposed to be, but the x needs to go over. So we're going to subtract 5x, subtract 5x. We're at 6y is equal to -5x minus 36. Again, we got to get that 6 away from the y, so we're going to divide by 6 for everything. So that ends up being y is equal to -5 over 6x, and then -36 divided by 6 is -6. There you go. Pretty simple. Hopefully you enjoyed it, and hopefully you learned something. Let me know if you have any questions. Thank you very much.